Barking dogs have been cashing at a great rate in the NFL. It is week 3, and we know what that means. Chaos week is upon us. We're going to go over those primetime games. We're going to see if the deli's back open with Marco. We know we're going to get all of that Steam action from VR. And of course, best bets up next on Bet on It. VR, you guys know him as the Greek Gambler, and Marco in Vegas, Marco D'Angelo. Everybody here is from wagertalk.com. If you guys are new, make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the Wager Talk YouTube channel because we've got a great show for you today. Starting off tomorrow night, Marco, Thursday Night Football, Miami, almost a 2-touchdown underdog at their divisional rival Buffalo, total 49.5.
Well, Kelly, at first glance, you look at this game and there's just, you're going to run to the window and you're going to like Buffalo and you're going to like over because Miami looks like a team in total disarray. Remember, after week 1, they had a players only meeting after 1 week. Well, that players only meeting wasn't very productive because they went out and lost last week at home to the New England Patriots. Not only did they lose to the Patriots for the second week in a row, they've given up 33 points, okay? When you faced Indianapolis, who's playing well after the first 2 weeks, and New England, but you give up 33 to both of those two teams, things aren't looking too good. And now in comes Buffalo. Based off of that, you might think that Buffalo could hit this total on their own with their offense. But here's the thing. It's a Thursday night game. It's a division game. Short week. It's an opponent. Both teams know each other, so you know how to prepare for them. And these teams have more – these type of games have more of a tendency to go under the total than over the total. And what I'm looking at here, the only shot that Miami has in this game is they got to shorten the game. This offense is not going to trade points with Buffalo. If you're going to try that type of game plan, Coach McDaniel, you might as well – just, start sending out your resumes because you're going to be fired sooner than later. And the joke is which Florida coach is going to get fired first. Is it going to be the Gators coach, Billy Napier, or is it going to be the Dolphins coach? Might put my money on the Dolphins coach. And I'm looking at this one. I think you're going to see them try to shorten the game with the running game. I think you can actually run the football against Buffalo, attack them up the middle, and try to shorten the game. And let's be honest, with Buffalo, it's a short week for them. Josh Allen left the game for a couple plays last week, but being Josh Allen, he came back into the game, being the warrior that he is. Short week, you know what? Those bumps and bruises, they take their toll. If you're Buffalo, you want to get in and get out as well. I think you're going to see a lower scoring game. I think Buffalo gets the lead. I think they try to milk the clock themselves. And I'm going under the total of 49.5. We usually tell you here on the show, get down now. This line's going to move. I'm going to tell you, wait till closer to game time to bet this total since we're betting the under. And why? Because the public hasn't gotten involved yet. And I can tell you, the public, after looking at what Miami's done the first 2 weeks and looking at what Buffalo's done the first 2 weeks, they ain't running to the window to bet the under. They're going to be betting the over, and you might get a little extra value closer to game time.
Also, keep an eye because some of those primetime unders have been cashing. We saw 2 more there on Monday Night Football. Sunday Night Football, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs traveling at the New York Giants, total 43.5. And I think there's a lot to unpack here. There's some situations to look at, of course. Kansas City off a loss has been a really strong bounce back angle. 5-0 straight up, 4-0-1 against the spread the last 5. But we're going to look at a different angle. We're going to look at how good that Kansas City defense has been. They just held Philadelphia to 279 yards. Well, what did we just see last week from the Giants? Oh, that's right. We just saw Russell Wilson's best game ever just get obliterated and completely wiped out by a game-losing interception. Thank you, Russell. My Survivor team thanks you. Needed that one big time. But this is why this is such an interesting game. New York has been just rough lately at home. 1-7 straight up, 2-6 against the spread. I like this game under the total. Keep in mind, I agree with Marco. I think a lot of people are going to immediately dog reaction bet the over here. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. We just saw 450 yards and 3 touchdowns from Russell. Yeah, I get it. Thank you for showing us your latest Jameis Winston impression. But I like the under. I think this one is just a touch too high with both of these teams. When played in the first 3 weeks of the regular season, games involving home dogs, 56, 30-1. That's 65% to the under. So give me the under. That is from our friends at the Gold Sheet, by the way. Give me the under in Sunday Night Football, under 43.5. VR, let's move on to Monday Night Football, where I think maybe we have a barking dog situation. Detroit plus 5.5 at Baltimore. Total 51.5.
Yeah, and this line continues to drop. It opened as high as 6.5, got bet down to 6, 5.5. I've even seen 4.5s out there this morning, like you touched on. So definitely sharp money on the Detroit side, and it makes sense. Where usually I'd look to fade a team like this. You're scoring 50 points in the NFL and covering a point spread, you're usually going to come in overvalued the following week. But fortunately for them, they're playing a Baltimore team that's coming off back-to-back weeks where they put up 40+. And if not for the improbable, they'd be 2-0 right now and maybe even a bigger favorite, which is where it opened, so it made sense because, again, that was that coin flip game against Buffalo that they were so heavily favored to win with minutes remaining. With that said, I still have Baltimore as the highest power rated team in the NFL. I repeat, right now, power rating wise, Baltimore's at the top. But fortunately, Detroit's right there. They're a top 5 team. Most, I think, won't look at it that way. They see a 1-1 Baltimore team, you see a 1-1 Detroit team, and both are in the top 5. Again, we're talking power rating here. And I just think it's a little bit too high when you look at how Detroit is coming off of that good game last week. Like, listen, their first week of the season, there was a lot of Green Bay love. It kind of made sense. New offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. But we saw from Detroit last week, they're just as loaded as they come offensively and defensively. And they're going up against a Baltimore team where on the offensive side of the ball, they pretty much were perfect last week. It's hard to repeat that kind of performance. But it's on the defensive side of the ball that we really get the advantages for Detroit because Baltimore is banged up. They brought in Alexander and Awuzie in the secondary to try to, bolster it a little bit. But still, they got a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. And against an offense like Detroit, that's going to be problems. I also think the total's a little bit too high. It's continuing to climb. That's why I haven't pounced on the under yet. But I just think once you get over that 53 and up range, it's got to be almost a perfect game. Like any stoppages or long drives makes it very difficult. So I lean under, but we're going to go with Detroit plus the 4.5 or 5. Shop for the best number because there's definitely 5s available and sprinkle that money line. Detroit may come out 2-1 after this game.
All right. I lean to that side, VR. So I'm happy to hear you agree. We're going to get right into this Steam report up next. Make sure you guys have your Odds Logic screens open. Odds Logic /ACE gets you a free week of service. So pen and paper ready because it goes quick. VR, I'm going to throw a little curveball though. Please. This week we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teaser spots. And I know you usually go over this with Ariel on Sundays with Last Call. By the way, VR will be joining me this Sunday on Last Call while Ariel celebrates her birthday. But I want to kind of talk about what we should be looking for and why you think people should be waiting until Sunday to bet some of these teasers.
Yeah, and it sounds counterproductive because, again, when you're trying to beat the sports betting market, you want to get out ahead of it. You want closing line value. We know historically, if you can do that over and over, you're a mathematical certainty to turn a profit. So why wait on teasers? Well, the reason for that is because I want the market to be as efficient as possible. When it's efficient, that means the higher probability that the game's going to land near the point spread. That's how you cash a teaser. So for me, I like to wait till later, let the market kind of figure itself out. Let all the sharp money get in there. Let the books put out that closing number that they think is unbeatable, more or less, at 11-10. And then that's when I want to get involved. And I just want to look to tease those numbers. The team to me becomes irrelevant. In fact, last week we cashed the teaser and I was opposite a team that I like because the number made sense. It didn't matter about the handicap. We're not handicapping the matchup. We're handicapping the number. And what we're doing is looking for games that allow us to go through 3, 6, and 7. That's it. So we're looking to tease dogs up to 7.5, 8, or 8.5, and we're looking to tease favorites down to -1.5, 2, or 2.5. It really is that simple. You want to improve your results. Look for lower totals. Because again, the lower the total, the less points expected. Less points expected, more each point's worth. And that's when your teaser becomes most advantageous. So you want to look at those matchups where the total is lower. And more importantly, even if it's a higher total, you want to look at the line movement towards the under. You don't want games that are being steamed over, high totals that are getting steamed over. That's why we don't tease college football. Too much variance in scoring. So if you stick to those few rules and don't lay more than -125, you'll make some money betting teasers this year. If you're laying 130s, 135s, don't do it. You're taking the worst of it. It's negative EV, and you're better off just laying 11-10 and straight betting it. You're not getting any added value by using the teaser.
I asked that question because last week it came from the comments section. So guys, jump in the comments, ask some questions, and we'll get them answered. Love you guys for hitting that like button and always hitting subscribe, because that's how we keep things going here at Wager Talk, so we can provide you all of the free information. Yes, we are #1 in the world for that. VR, speaking of information, I hear that Steam was still going, and that means we got this week's Steam report.
Indeed. And again, narrowing down the ones that I feel very confident are legit. We won't get no manipulation or middle attempts. So far, so good. NFL starting off good. College football has started off good. If you like money, you know what to do. Start off with 451, Indianapolis. The look ahead was -2. Then they brought out the 3. That got hit up to -120. Pay attention to the look aheads. The limits are low. Okay, so when you look at your odds logic screen, or at the very least your Wager Talk free on screen, you're going to see some big movements, but you want to see when that initial move happened, because a lot of time it's a jump from the look ahead line to where they open it for the new week. And then it's what it does after that that truly matters. Go to 453 Atlanta. The look ahead was -2.5 and 3. And then they put out the 4.5, and that got hit until you saw a little take back on Carolina at +6. So you have Atlanta -3 and 4.5, and Carolina +6. 455 Las Vegas, look ahead at +6.5 and +6. They brought out the 5.5, that got hit as well, and under 47.5. When they hit the look ahead at under 47.5, books went immediately to 44.5. So it looks like a big 3-point movement, but it took maybe 1 or 2 limit bets max to move 3 straight points. So it wasn't like it's a huge move where a bunch of steam from multiple groups are banging that under. That's not what happened there. 460, Cincinnati and Minnesota. Look ahead, under 47 and 46.5. And then they brought out 43, and that got steamed under again, and 42.5. Those are the ones you want to pay a lot of attention to. The ones that get follow through, like we saw in baseball with the overnights and then the next day. 473, Dallas, Chicago, over 46 to 48.5. That was the look ahead. They brought out the 49, that got hit. They hit the 49.5, and then they hit the 50 as well. True steam over Dallas, Chicago. Finally, Detroit, which we touched on Sunday Night Football. They took the 6.5 and 6 on the look ahead, then took the 5.5 as well, once the confirmation on the injured side, defensive side of the ball for the Baltimore Ravens. So that's what we're looking at this early in the week for NFL. Again, the steam rooms leading into kickoff on Sunday. So we'll get a lot of good late information as well. Join us each and every week for that. WagerTalk.com. Thank you.
All right, guys. I have sad news because our barking dogs would have swept last week, but I gave out the Jacksonville Jaguars, so that was a little painful. Just going to throw that out there. But this week, we're going to go even more painful, Marco, because my dog is just absolutely and utterly repulsive. Yours is a little bit more palatable. Well, not by much, but tell me why you think Carolina has a shot to beat Atlanta this week.
Well, Carolina was a client play for me last week, and I'll take that backdoor cover, and I'm going to come right back with Carolina again. And this is more as much as going against Atlanta as it is going with Carolina. Atlanta's in a horrible scheduling spot, in my opinion. They're on the road for the second week in a row, and they're coming off a very satisfying win on Sunday Night Football against Minnesota. Now, granted, you could look at that game two ways and say, did Atlanta look good or did Minnesota just look god-awful? Well, I'm not going to debate either side because both are valid points. But you've got a young quarterback in Michael Penix Jr., got to win in prime time. And now he's going from a road underdog to a road favorite, and a sizable one at that. This is a young team with a second-year quarterback. And when I say a second-year quarterback, he didn't start all last year. He got some starts at the end of the season. So here's a quarterback that's only got a handful of starts in the National Football League, and now you're asking him to not only win on the road, but win by a margin. We're looking at a point spread of 6 here. This is a division game. So, yeah, Atlanta shouldn't really look past Carolina, but Carolina hasn't done anything yet. And this is their home opener. So, you're going to get, a crowd with some excitement. Your first home game. I think they're divisional home dog, all those angles that we like to look for. And then I do look at the performance that Michael Penix had last week. He was 13 of 21. Okay, it's a good percentage, but it was only for 108 yards. It was a lot of dinking and dunking. I'm not sold on Atlanta yet. This is a team that I still have question marks about their defense. And I go back to my first statement. Was it Atlanta looking good or Minnesota just horrible? J.J. McCarthy looked bad, then got hurt. This is just a bad performance, and I just don't agree with the move that we've seen in this game. I'm going to take the value with Carolina. I think this one goes right down to the wire. Call it Carolina 24-23. Give me the points. And Carolina is my barking dog.
All right, VR, a game that I have on my teaser list because I'm too big of a wuss to take them outright, but you're going to take them outright. And it's funny because I was going to make a comment about having such a small dog, but VR has been giving out double-digit wins on the college football show, so I'm going to let it slide.
Yeah, and I can't hit a money line. I'm 2-0 on NFL dogs, but I can't get the money line. So I think this one, unless it's a 1-point win, hopefully we get there with the Denver Broncos. And I'm fading my LA Chargers. That's my future. The Chargers are my team in 2025. So again, I can't be biased because I just got to go week by week. And right now, I just think this sets up nicely for the Denver Broncos, who are finally in the dog role. This is a team that was favored in both of their games. They had that really tough loss against Indianapolis, or they'd be sitting at 2-0 as well. And who knows what this line would be then. I mean, that was, one of those bad beats for the Denver Broncos. But here's the bottom line. I think they have the defense to not allow Justin Herbert to have that big explosive plays, those damaging bombs where they're stretching the field on Denver. As long as they're forcing the Chargers to drive down the football field and take some time off the clock, Denver's going to be just fine. Because I think on the offensive side of the ball, that's what they're going to do. Denver's going to look to control the clock, control the tempo, and keep Justin Herbert on the sidelines. And I think Denver's set up nicely defensively to do that. Don't look at last week's game with the Colts, the way it got out. Just became one of those ugly games. And again, they've gotten even a little bit unlucky. You've seen the Chargers gotten lucky. Not only have they been getting turnovers, but they've been able to maximize on those turnovers. Or with the Denver, they've been a little bit unlucky. Even when they've gotten the turnovers, they haven't been able to do much with it. And again, the red zone efficiency for Denver's there, which I like. If they could keep the Chargers to field goals instead of touchdowns on some of those drives, they'll stay in the game. The key is stay in the game with a chance to win it late. And I think Denver can do that. Again, they have the kind of defense And I think offensively, they're balanced enough to sustain some drives and keep that Charger offense on the sidelines. Again, Chargers are starting to become that sexy team, which I don't like. After beating, the Chiefs on that primetime season opener, and they got it done again last week, obviously against the Raiders on Monday night. So primetime and primetime, recency bias, if we've ever seen it, it's going to be on the Chargers. Again, they win on Monday Night Football as 3-point dogs. They cover against the Raiders as 3.5-point favorites. Now at home, give me the Broncos. Sprinkle and make sure you pay attention to that line on Sunday, because if it is at that 2.5, we definitely want to use it on a teaser. At 3, obviously we can't use it. But at 2.5, even with the over being steamed from 43.5 to 45.5, I would still look to tease the Denver Broncos up to 8.5 if you can get 2.5 on Sunday.
All right, that will be on my teaser list. Well, who am I kidding? It's already there. All right, guys, a tweet that I saw go, I would call it semi-viral, at least in the sports betting world, was NFL favorites of 4.5 points are 12-0 straight up the season, dating back to week 11 of last year, 52-8 straight up. That is almost 87%. The NFL favorites have been crushing. So I could see why you guys are going to think I'm crazy for giving out this play. But VR just mentioned teams that are starting to get real sexy. And none other than the Green Bay Packers look the sexiest, in my opinion. Everybody's ready to say, okay, here's this team. Give them the representation out of the NFC. But I think everybody needs to pump the brakes. This is still the youngest team in the NFL. This is still a Green Bay team who's missing 2 offensive linemen. And remember, Micah Parsons still not playing full-time snaps there on defense. I know the Cleveland Browns looked awful last week versus the Ravens. But if you just are looking at the box score and not the game, I think you're kind of missing it. I know it's tough to stomach the Browns here in this spot. But big home underdogs in the first 3 weeks of the season, that means you're getting at least 6 points or more, 18-1-2 against the spread over the last 3 seasons. I'm just going to say it. I was talking to my boyfriend last night, who is a Green Bay Packers fan. And yeah, I got a Denver Broncos helmet behind me, but I have watched more Green Bay Packers games in the last decade than I care to admit. He said, this is a game where Green Bay will find a way to lose it. And I looked at it and I said, God, it looks so easy to tease Green Bay. And then I looked at a scheduling spot. Oh, that's right. They play the Cardinals on Thursday Night Football. Not that they have some big time rivalry, but on a short week, just got to go into Cleveland and get the win, right? Looks a little fishy. I know it's gross. It's ugly, but at least take the points here with the Cleveland Browns. Be careful in those teasers. And if you're feeling feisty, like me, you can sprinkle just a little bit on that money line. All right, Marco D'Angelo. The Deli has been absolutely crushing. If you guys have been missing his college football Deli games, you guys can head over to the Wager Talk YouTube channel and check out that one as well. Marco, you also do a standalone Deli video.
Yum.
Yeah, Kelly, we do it every week, and we're off to a great start. We started this last year, season 2, and the response has been great. So, hey, Bet On It Nation, head on over. We put it out on Thursday night. You get more sandwich spots, more trap games. 7-3 so far for the 2 episodes. I'll take 70% all year, and it's free. And you get to look at me with that goofy hat in the Deli. So what could be better? Now, with the Deli this week, we're going to go to a team, and you know what? You look at this game, and you look at the knee-jerk reaction. You got Chicago, and you got Dallas. Now, I know, Kelly, you were sweating. What was the over-under on the number of F-bombs that you dropped during that Dallas Giants game last week? It had to be high, and I know you went over the total with that one. But people look at it. Dallas went up and down the field. That's what we know is going to happen with this Dallas offense when they are healthy. But we also saw what we knew was going to happen as well. They're not going to be able to stop teams. Russell Wilson had a career game against this Dallas Cowboy defense. And Russell Wilson's been in the league a long time. And most people, the consensus is that he's pretty much washed up. He threw for over 400 yards against this defense last week. Chicago's got more weapons. Yeah, I know Caleb Williams has not looked good so far, but I think he gets healthy this week against this defense. I'm going to go ahead and take the Chicago Bears to get right. And let's be honest, that score last week is a little bit misleading because Detroit put up 52 points on them. That was a message. Dan Campbell took it personal after week 1 when he got just dominated by the Packers. Man, everybody, all the pundits, the narrative out there was, oh, the Lions are not the same team. Ben Johnson's gone. He was the mastermind of that offense. Well, he was still throwing the football in the fourth quarter against his former offensive coordinator last week and put up 52 points. I don't think Dallas is going to have that kind of success this week against the Bears. And talk about sandwich spots. Chicago, or we've got Dallas coming off that game last week, and they've got a big game going next week. This is a spot where I'm going to go ahead and take Chicago. Campbell, like I said last week, ran up the offense on them, makes them look worse than they are. To me, this line should be higher, but because of one team winning in a high-scoring game and the other team giving up 52 points, the market is shaded towards the Cowboys, and it's giving us value. Give me Chicago this week as the Bears and Caleb Williams get into the win column for the first time. Give me the Bears.
Oh, that one is a perplexing line, to say the least, Marco. I saw so many tweets going, wait, what? Well, now we might know why the Bears were marched out as favorites. Speaking of favorites, we have our favorite bets coming up right up. How about now? VR, before you give out your best bet for this week in the NFL, please let everybody know what you've got going on over at wagertalk.com.
Oh, yeah. Right now, I have my college football package up for Saturday. Number 1 in college football in 2025. We've won every single week. I know I lost my 5% last week, but not much difference between our 4s and 5s. Again, bottom line, that package is up. And then Sunday, my NFL package is going up today with a 5%. First 5% of the 2025 NFL season. Currently number 1 in NFL for the regular season as well. So combined NFL and college football, it's been that kind of season. If you like money, you know what to do. Just going to continue to crush it. And I got a best bet for you. I absolutely love the New England Patriots this week over the Steelers. I want to hear Marco's opinion on that. Hopefully he could confirm it for me. Bottom line is this Pittsburgh defense is just too easy to score on. The fact that Justin Fields and Sam Darnold were able to destroy this defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers to where they're right now going into this week, they're 26th in success rate allowed and 28th in passing success rate allowed. There's no higher correlation as far as a stat goes than passing success rate to covering point spreads in the NFL. And you're looking at one of the worst teams at that in the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think you're going to have a New England offense that has success and a New England team that's in dire need of winning at home. They only won 2 home games last year. They won 1 home game the year before that. There's a lot of pressure on them to win football games at home. And in come the Pittsburgh Steelers that are definitely a beatable team. Rodgers looked great in week 1, but in week 2, not so much. And if this is a team that is forced to be one-dimensional to where Rodgers has to get it done, at that age, if you could bring pressure, they're going to have a problem. And if there's one thing New England edge rushers can do is give pressure, bring pressure. And I think they're going to create problems for that offensive line of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you add to that the injuries that the Steelers are already dealing with on the defensive side of the football. I love New England in this spot. Wrong team was favored. Obviously now it's a 1 point, don't really matter. But I really think New England should be, about 1.5, 2 point favorite in this game. Wouldn't be a surprise if I would have seen it bet up to 3. So give me the Patriots, best bet for this week, and see if we could improve on our 4-2 in the NFL.
Yeah, I like the Patriots this week as well. But again, I'm probably going to wuss out and put them in a teaser. Marco, that is the name of the NFL season for me has been the teasers. You, on the other hand, have been crushing some of these small favorites. Before you get into your best bet for this week, can you tell everybody what is going on this weekend at wagertalk.com?
Well, we're rolling it back, Kelly. Weekend Warrior was such a success last week. We're bringing it back this week, $49. You can get your favorite handicapper Saturday and Sunday, all of their football selections. And then if they have a Monday night selection, you'll get that as a free bonus as well, all for $49. Last week, I went 3-1 in college football, 2-0 with our top plays. We had 4% and a 5% play last Saturday. The 5% play was North Texas. They were -6. They win 59-10. Love those rocking chair winners. That was fun last week, and that brings my record on 5% plays to 32-13, going back to February of 2024. Long period there. I don't release a ton of these 5% plays. When we do, we win them. We're going to have another one this week. Get the Weekend Warrior. You won't miss out. Now, for this week, Kelly, for my best bet, we are looking at the Minnesota Vikings. They're going to be playing the Cincinnati Bengals, and we've got a unique situation here. We've got two backup quarterbacks taking over. Cincinnati lost Joe Burrow last week to injury. He's going to be out at least 3 months. And the Minnesota Vikings lost J.J. McCarthy to injury. Now, I'm going to point out the obvious. You're losing J.J. McCarthy, who is an unproven commodity and hasn't looked good so far in his 2 starts, against losing an MVP candidate in Joe Burrow. Cincinnati definitely got the worst of the injuries between the 2 quarterbacks. And let's be honest, this might actually be a blessing for Minnesota. Remember last year when McCarthy got hurt in preseason, they handed the reins over to Sam Darnold. What'd Sam Darnold do in this Minnesota Viking offense? He only proceeded to have the best year of his career. In comes Carson Wentz. I've never been a big fan of Carson Wentz ever since he, had that rookie season and then got hurt, missed the playoffs. Nick Foles took over in Philadelphia. He's bounced around the league, but he is a veteran quarterback that has starts under his belt. And I'm going to trust the process and trust the coaching here with Minnesota and think that it's going to be plug and play with the quarterback. But where there is a big difference in these 2 teams, that's on the defensive side of the football. Minnesota is an elite defense. Cincinnati is not. I'm going to go ahead and play the injured player card. We could go either way with that injured player card, but I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings and Carson Wentz. Difference being, as I said, the defense. Let's go ahead, lay the 3. And this is one of those ones where I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to lay the 3 now. I'm not going to wait because we could see this one pop to 3.5 come Sunday. Get it now at the 3.
Woo! Just trying to gather my strength here to talk about this game, because it is not a game that I wanted to talk about, but it was a game that I wanted to use in Survivor. And so I had to do a deep dive. So I called our friends over at the Gold Sheet and I said, all right, guys, why should I not take Seattle against this horrible New Orleans team? New Orleans had opportunities to not only cover, but win their last 2 games, yet fell short. Spencer Rattler, 0-8 as a starter. Seahawks, this is the best week to take them. But is it? After falling to the 49ers in week 1, the Seahawks are just 13-22 against the spread here at home. They look very easy, similar to the Packers this week, to just put them in a teaser spot, right? Ugh. Let's just be honest here. This one is a little misleading. I know taking the Seattle Seahawks here at home seems like the right thing to do, but Saints quarterback Spencer Rattler has been making improvements week by week. Again, could have beaten Seattle last week. 4 of his final 10 passes were dropped. He's like the Avery Johnson of the NFL. Since he's been a starting quarterback, he has the second highest drop rate of all eligible quarterbacks. I'm not sure the Saints are as bad as the final scores indicate or the box scores indicate. And truth be told, I didn't watch either of those games. I wanted to save Seattle for this spot. I don't know if I can do it, guys. I think I got to take the 7.5 here with New Orleans. And just a little word of the wise, be careful if you are using them in your survivor pools this week. They will be the most popular pick. All right, let's bring it back in the guys. Let's try to have a winning week. Oh, wait, that's for me. I hope you guys have another winning week. And we're going to get back on track here over in the driver's seat. Good luck to everybody. Let's put up that recap graphic, and I'll be sure to check the comment sections. Love something, hate something. You guys let us know. You have a question for Marco or VR, and we will get it answered. All right, guys, and if you missed the college football edition of Bet On It, it is right here. And, of course, we'll have that mega show up. We'll have the deli. We'll have Ralph with TNA. We'll have Teddy with Stockwatch. And, of course, the college football and NFL editions of Bet On It. Until next week, let's bet on it.
NFL 0-2 teams, NFL division teams that were swept last year, and 3 systems that are 70%, 74%, and 79% coming your way. This is Ralph Michaels with the Wager Talk NFL Week 3 TNA. Yeah, I know you know what TNA stands for, Trends and Angles, and I've got a lot of great ones for you today. Let's get started. Well, we know if you fall into an 0-2 hole, only 10% of those teams have made the playoffs. Only one team since 1988 has lost 3 straight and made the playoffs. That was Houston a few years ago. So this is really a do or die day. So let's take a look at how NFL teams do that are 0-2. You might think, boy, those NFL teams that are 0-2 are going to come home backs against the wall and they're going to play well. They haven't, folks. Take a look as a home favorite, only 44%, and as a home dog, only 48%. Over to the right, you can see which teams that applies to. If you are 0-2 and now an away favorite, you have actually cashed 57%. And this number surprised me, but that's why we do these charts, to make sure the thoughts we have on what should occur actually does. We put a numerical value to it. Away dogs that are 0-2, like Houston, Miami, the Jets, and New Orleans, are 27-14, 66% against the spread. Now, you know, if I'm going to look at 0-2 teams, I want to look at 2-0 teams. And let's take a look. If you bet every NFL team that is 2-0, you have gone 42-48, 47%. 2-0 teams as a home favorite, 45%. As a home dog, though, 6-5, not a huge sample size, 55%. Away favorite, you're right at the Mendoza line, going 11-11. And as an away dog, 7-9. It's only been 11 games when a 0-2 team is at home against a 2-0 team. They've gone 5-6 against the spread. And an 0-2 team on the road against a 2-0 team, 10-7, 59%. So again, biggest takeaway, 0-2 teams at home, a fade. 0-2 teams on the road have been a play on. Situation number 2. This is looking at division teams that were swept last year. I'm going to go on a quick rant. Why don't I say division teams with double revenge? I hate that phrase. It is so overused. If a team was a double-digit dog and lost both games, they don't have revenge. They were supposed to lose. Yes, they got swept and they lost back-to-back games to their opponent, but I can't call that revenge. So I use getting swept. If you bet every division team in the first meeting of the season that was swept last year, you're 51.2%. It is surprising when you look at last year, if the team that was swept was a favorite in both games, it's only happened 34 times. They're only 14-19. So you would think you were a favorite twice, and now you're playing them this year. 14 and 19. No, it doesn't apply to anyone this week. It does apply to Arizona next week. If you were a dog in both meetings, you're 52.2%. But let's look in the traditional roles. Home favorites that were swept, only 41.8%. Away favorites that were swept, 38.7%. That's pretty simple, guys. If you like a team that is favored and they were swept last year, it's been a very poor play, 42 and 39%. As a home dog, you're 50%. And as an away dog like Denver and Miami, they are actually 58% against the spread after getting swept the previous season in their first meeting. Well, guys, I got 3 great systems coming up for you. Before I get to that, do us one favor. Hit that like button. It's why we do these videos. Leave a comment, leave a suggestion. It helps our algorithms. And that's why we're able to provide you all the incredible free content we do amongst all the Wager Talk media networks. Follow them all. WT.buzz is your shortcut to get to my homepage. And that's something you want to write down. WT.buzz/RM. This weekend, we have the Weekend Warrior. For $49, you'll get you'll get Saturday's college football, Sunday's NFL, and if I have a Monday night play in the NFL, you'll receive that as a bonus. I have a 5% NFL teaser available for this week. Let me just share a couple numbers with you. Going back to the end of the 2023 season, I've had 6 NFL 5%, a perfect 6-0. Going back to the end of 2023, when I have an NFL teaser rated 4% or 5%, they are 8-0 and 15-1, 94%. Best of all, I load all of my college football plays by Friday. I load all of my NFL by Saturday. Sign up for the Weekend Warrior today. As soon as I release those games, you will get them immediately. So no need to wait to the weekend. Lock it in now. Get that 5% and get all of my Saturday college football and Sunday NFL, WT.buzz/RM. Well, let's get to these 3 systems. System number 1. This only applies to game number 3. Both teams are 0-2, and you have a single-digit line. It's that easy. It's only happened 34 times since 1993, but the over-under is 23, 10, and 1, 70% to the over. It applies to only one team, one game this week. It's KC and the Giants. Does it make sense? Well, we know that 0-3 teams are likely not to make the playoffs, so we have 2 desperate teams. Perhaps you open up the playbook. You try a few trick plays. 4th down, you may go for it an extra time or 2 because, again, your backs are to the wall. Makes perfect sense to me. Again, both teams 0-2, single-digit line, 70% to the over, KC and the Giants. System number 2. Away teams often away win, traveling back-to-back weeks. A home team off a road game, so they had to travel. The lines are competitive from from +3.5 to -3.5. So both teams had to travel. Competitive game. The over-under, 12 and 34. That is 74% to the under since 2021. What game does that apply to? One this week, the Rams and Philadelphia. And finally, our 3rd system. Winless teams on the road, off a loss as a home favorite, and now a favorite or a small dog. So, again, this could be week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. And actually from week 3 on, this system gets stronger. It goes to 86% against the spread. So which team is winless, is on the road, off a loss as a home favorite, and now a favorite or a dog to +6, 33-9, 79% against the spread. It applies to the Houston Texans. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your busy day to watch my TNA video. And again, please hit that like button and have a great NFL week number 3.
Let's talk about the Chicago Bears and what we're going to do with the 0-2 Bears right now. Because let's be real, expectations were fairly high for Chicago this year. They were lined at an 8.5 win team. Lined as a 500 level team, which means plenty of bettors out there thought that the Bears would be capable of going over 500. And remember, last year this team started 4-2 before that Hail Mary loss at Washington. They finished 5-12. So the only win came week 18 against Green Bay, resting starters. They did not respond well after the Hail Mary loss at Washington. The leadership from Caleb Williams and company just wasn't there. So they had a new head coach, Ben Johnson. They spent in free agency. They upgraded the offense. They upgraded everywhere. This team's supposed to be better. Line 500 level team, lots of hype. Some thought they could be contenders. Well, let's tap the brakes on that a little bit. And after 2 weeks, we have to talk about where the markets are looking at Chicago. Ben Johnson, when he took over as the Lions offensive coordinator in 2022, Detroit opened that season 1-6 before turning things around. And they did turn things around later, but it wasn't like it happened overnight. All right. All off season, Ben Johnson was talking about how complicated the offense it was. All preseason, he talked about how we're installing it in little bits because it's so complicated. It's going to take some time. The first 2 games, it's pretty clear. The learning curve is steep. All right. There's been lots and lots of shade being thrown on Caleb Williams, and he probably deserves some of it. All kinds of sources. People don't like his character. People don't like anything about Caleb Williams right now. And I'm not sensing that Caleb Williams is someone around the league that the opposing coaches and coordinators are enamored with. Nobody in the organization seems to like the guy. And so far, 6 sacks, 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception, 61% completions. It's not like his numbers are horrible, but it's not like his numbers are good either. And certainly in the second half of these games, Caleb Williams has been pretty useless. So the offense is very much a work in progress. It's going to take a while. Williams is no Jared Goff yet. The defense is clearly a problem too. This defense last week, again, it was the Lions. The Lions have something to prove. 8.8 yards per play allowed in a 50-burger is not good. 6 touchdowns and 7 red zone tries is not good. They're number 32 in the NFL in points allowed, number 32 in the NFL by a wide margin in yards per play allowed. J.J. McCarthy couldn't move the football at all against Atlanta, but he lit up Chicago's defense when it mattered in the second half of that ball game in the fourth quarter. So, the market still think they're a 500 level team. They're taking money against the Cowboys this week, and it's an 0-2 versus 1-1, which is a bet on situation for Chicago. We look at the database, but maybe they get that win here over the next month, over the next 5 weeks. And again, we talk about stock watches. We're talking about it pretty much. I grade myself over a 5-game ratio. And over the next 5 weeks, I'm selling the Bears. I'm expecting more troubles and struggles from Chicago moving forward before they right this ship. So stock watch, sell the Chicago Bears. Thanks for watching.
On this week's edition of Bet On It, those barking dogs that have been red hot are back. We've got a trio of top 25 games. Is Marco's Deli back open? We're going to find out. Of course, the steam room from VR, all followed by those best bets. Up next on Bet On It. I'm Kelly Stewart. You guys know me as Kelly in Vegas. In the middle, we got Yanni the Greek Gambler on all your social media channels, and Marco in Vegas. Marco D'Angelo, you guys know him. He's one of the founders here of Wager Talk. We're going to get into these top 25 games. And Marco, I'm going to start with you. 12 p.m. kickoff here on the East Coast. Number 17, Texas Tech, is now a 3-point underdog. And number 16, Utah, total 57.5. Marco, please break down this Big 12 early kick there on the West Coast.
Yeah, Kelly, that's the odd part of this game. You've got this game being played in Utah, and it's kicking off at 12 noon Eastern. Really odd start. But you know what? You look at these two teams, Kelly, the knee-jerk reaction here when you look at what the scores have been with both of these teams so far this year, and you look at the total of 57.5, immediately you're going to want to bet the over in this game, but don't go that route, and I'll tell you why. starting with the fact coming into the season, I was very, very high on Utah. Remember when we did our preview shows, they were my sleeper to win the Big 12. I also released to my clients a 5% major wager on their season win total over. I love this Utah team. And the reason for that is I said coming into the Big 12, I said they are built like a team that nobody wants to face in the Big 12. I referred back to their last few years in the Pac-12, why they were so successful. This was a team that dominates ball control. They will pound the ball down your throat. They have a passing game to complement their running game. But where they get you is the physicality on both sides of the football on the line. They play defense, and they play a physical brand of football. The Pac-12, that was a finesse conference. The Big 12, now what are they? All offense, no defense. Nobody wants to line up against them. Now, with that said, I am looking at this game to go under the total because Utah is going to do what they do best. They are going to run the football and throw the football. And their quarterback, remember, last year, the problem with Utah wasn't the defense, it was the offense. They had no consistency. Why? Because every week, Cam Rising was questionable for this team. But come in, Devon Dampier, and this team is rolling offensively. But what they'll do is going to play ground control here, keep Texas Tech's offense on the sidelines for long periods of time. What's the best way to beat a high-flying offense? Don't let them on the field. They get frustrated once they finally do get on the field when you watch those 5, 6, 7-minute drives. That's what you're going to see in this one, and eat some clock up. I am going with this one under the total, 57.5. Obviously, I'm rooting for Utah in this game with that season win total over. I think they are the better team. I may get to the window with them as well on a straight bet with Utah, but I love this one under 57.5. Honestly, I see this one to be 51 points or less in this game. Go under Texas Tech, Utah.
Marco, quick follow-up question. I know you like Utah to win the Big 12. I like Texas Tech to win the Big 12. Do you think this is more of a game where Texas Tech gets exposed, or do you think this is more of a game where we could see a Big 12 conference preview?
Could be a Big 12 conference preview, but Kelly, where I think this is the coming out party for Utah. Everybody knows the money that Texas Tech spent to get to where they're at. Utah still flying under the radar because of coming from the Pac-12 last year being their first year in the Big 12, and they had a bad year. They kind of got forgotten. That's why I thought there was so much value on this Utah team entering this season, but that value will be gone if they win this game in dominating fashion.
All righty, VR. We're going to move along. 3:30 Eastern here on the East Coast. Number 22, Auburn, 6.5-point underdog at number 11, Oklahoma. 48.5. I really considered using Auburn here on my 3-team money line parlay. There was a lot of dogs I liked this week. Do you like the underdog in this one?
Nah, I bet the favorite here, Oklahoma. We actually laid 6.5 on Oklahoma. It's the public side. Rest assured, come Saturday, books are going to need the Auburn side, especially when you factor in all the teasers and money line parlays that'll be tied in with Oklahoma. But I still think to the right side, at anything less than a touchdown, I think we're getting some value there just because of the defense. The fact they were able to hold Michigan to 13 points, held Temple to 3 points, really, really impressive. I think Auburn's going to have a lot of problems scoring against this Oklahoma offense. What they were able to do against Baylor and Ball State, it's not going to be as easy this time around against Oklahoma, especially on the road in Oklahoma. They've been very efficient. The way they've been able to control tempo and just extend drives, I think that's good. Again, going to be a problem for that Auburn defense to stop Oklahoma. And then I just don't see that offense putting up many points on this Oklahoma defense. Again, with home field advantage, anything less than a touchdown, I like the Oklahoma side. It's the public side, but I think it's the right side. Oklahoma, a little bit undervalued based on where their ranking is when you compare their power rating. And on the flip side, you have Auburn a little higher than what their power rating should reflect. So we even have a little bit of extra value there. So I'm going to lay the points with Oklahoma for my TV game.
Okay, I think that's probably the right side. I did look at Auburn and did not ultimately get to the window with that team. And another team I'm ultimately probably not going to get to the window on, but considered as well. 7:30 p.m. Eastern, number 9, Illinois. 4.5 point underdog, 5.5 point underdog. Check out the Odds Logic screen. Make sure you guys definitely shop around. oddslogic.com/Kelly in Vegas. We're going to take on at number 19, Indiana. Total is 52.5. Before we get started, my good friend Todd Furman tweeted this yesterday. How rare is it for the Illini football and Indiana football to be good at the same time? Saturday is the first meeting in season history where both teams will be ranked in the AP poll. That is a wild stat. And I do agree with Todd that this has the makings of a thriller. And I really, really, really wanted to make a case for the dog here. But ultimately, I'm going to make a case for the under. I know I don't play a ton of totals here, but this is one of those games that has ticked up very, very quickly. And I think we're going to see some buyback on the other side. We know the Hoosiers are completely offensive minded there, and I understand why. Kirk Cignetti has this offense rolling. But keep in mind what is one of the most key numbers in college football. That's right, 51. 52 is also a key number. So going through both of those is something to take note of. I like this Indiana team. I like what we've seen, but I do think in order for Illinois to win this football game, they're going to have to step up defensively. I do think this is going to be one of those makings of a classic. This is going to come down to the wire, and would not be surprised to see it settled by a field goal late, but over 52.5 is just too many. Give me that under. And I know it's a little scary with both of these offenses, but we're going to make it through. Let's get on over to VR now. Steam report, as I mentioned, Odds Logic, get that screen open before we let the dog off the leash to run. Get your pen and paper ready. And of course, guys, if you haven't hit that like button, please do so now. Also, make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode of Bet On It on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. VR, take it away.
All right. Well, Wise Guys have come out of the gate on fire. We turned a profit in week 0, week 1, week 2, and hopefully that continues. I narrowed down some of the more marquee matchups and those moves that multiple groups got involved in, because again, there's just so much manipulation and so much two-way action on a lot of these NFL and college football lines because they're really, really tight. Let's start off with Thursday's action. 304 Charlotte, +4.5, +3.5, and +3. Took it down through that key number. Friday, Tulsa, +13 and +12.5. Couple sides for you on Saturday. 309 North Texas, +2.5, +1, all the way to -1. So they flipped the favorite there. 320 Miami, Ohio, +3.5 and +3. Again, going through some key numbers. 340 Wisconsin, -7 and then -7.5. Strong move on Wisconsin. 367 Michigan, -1.5 and money line simultaneously. And then steam that game over at 44 and 44.5. 332 Duke, -2 and 2.5. 322 East Carolina plus the touchdown and 7.5 there. And finally, last game on the board, 378 Hawaii plus the 3.5 and +3. So those are some of the early moves for college football that multiple groups are down on. And I didn't see any resistance, but still a lot of time between now and Saturday for things to continue.
All right, our most, we'll call it profitable segment, Barking Dogs, because that's what they've been doing. And that's what we're looking for each and every week here on Bet On It, is dogs that have a shot to win outright. Marco D'Angelo did not watch the same game I watched last weekend. I thought, hey, this is a great buy low spot on the Florida Gators. They want to fire Billy Napier. And then DJ Lagway threw more interceptions than I would versus an okay LSU defense. Marco, I had this game circled. I said, it's never going to make my parlay because it's like 3.5, 4. The Florida Gators are up to 8 with our good friends there at Circa. What is going on here? You're going to take the Gators plus the points, and you think they might even be worth a sprinkle here?
Yeah, Kelly, and this is a classic example of a angle. You know, I have my sandwich games, I have my trap games, I have the lose the same game twice, I have all these different Marco-isms, if you want to call them that. Well, this one is what I call an ABC game, and it's one of the reasons why John Q. Public loses so often betting sports. And this is how they're going to look at this game. They're going to go and say, okay, Team A, we're going to call them Florida, lost to Team B, we're going to call them South Florida. They lost 18-16. Then we're going to introduce Team C, Miami, who played Team B, also South Florida, and just trounced them 49-12. So the knee-jerk common reaction by average bettors is going to be, well, if Miami could destroy South Florida beat Florida, well, this is a no-brainer. Miami is just going to kill Florida, right? Wrong. Comparing common opponents is a huge mistake. You got to compare every game on its own merit. And when you go back and look at Florida, when they lost to South Florida, look at the situation. It was the first game of the year for Florida. South Florida already had a game under their belt. They upset Boise State. Was Florida looking past them? Probably, because they had LSU on deck, a much bigger game last week. So that's the negative that Florida had when they played South Florida. Now, for Miami of Florida, when they played South Florida, they caught them coming off a week where they probably were still partying from upsetting Big Brother Florida. In-state rivalry, knocking off one of the big teams. And they were playing their third top 25 team in 3 weeks, coming off back-to-back wins. Do you think Miami was going to look past them and not take them seriously? That was the wake-up call, and they came to play. And oh, did they ever play? 49-12. It was a blowout win for Miami. Now, everybody, that's why this line is 7.5 and creeping to 8 at other places, because the public wants no part of Florida. Yeah, I watched the Florida game last week. They outgained LSU. 5 turnovers did them in. Now, can I guarantee you that they won't throw 5 turnovers again, picks this week? I can't, but I can tell you this much. The Miami defense is not as good as LSU's, that's for sure, and that still was a 10-point game with 5 turnovers. You have that many plus in turnovers, you're supposed to win by more than 10 points. I'm sorry. I'm taking Florida here. This one's going to go right down to the wire. Billy Napier is probably coaching for his job, because after this one, he's got Texas on deck. He starts the season 0-4. He's out the door. Let's go with Florida. Give me the points. This line's going to continue to climb. No reason to run to the window right away. I think you'll get more points even as we get closer to the weekend and the public gets involved. But I like Florida plus the points. And, of course, it's barking dogs. You got to do a little sprinkle, Kelly, on Florida outright.
My stomach hurts. It does. It makes me not – this team, I was so high on them to start the season. I know VR liked them as well. What could go wrong? VR, a team that you and I both like, you have on your barking dog list as well. SMU.
Yep.
Worth a little sprinkle here to beat up on, we'll call it almost crosstown rival TCU.
Yeah, and Marco beat me to the play on Florida because I absolutely love it. I'm telling you right now, this is the time of year you could take advantage of this exact situation. Miami's not a top 5 college football team. Miami's not a top 10 college football team. Miami's not a top 15 or even a top 20 college football team as far as power rankings go. They're barely in the top 25. And I promise you, right behind them is Florida, maybe a slot or 2 down. They're not that far off. The record is the only big difference between the 2 teams. But as far as skill-wise, I agree with Marco 100%. But we're going to have to look elsewhere and try to make it 4 in a row on our live dogs. We hit a 410, a plus 150, and a plus 260. And got to go with SMU here because the bottom line is, if you can slow TCU down and force them to where they're even more one-dimensional than they come into the game wanting to be, just throwing, it becomes a lot easier on your defense. And with SMU's ability to run the football, chew up clock, keep that TCU offense on the sidelines, if they could create some 3 and outs or not have to play from behind, they could win this game wire to wire. Like if they could get out ahead of TCU, then this is a very money line type of bet you want to have. The 7 points, I think, is a gift. I don't think it should be any more than maybe 3.5 or 4. Again, it just the path to victory is obvious. Force TCU to become even more one-dimensional, just throwing the football and run, which is what SMU does so well. And I think TCU is going to have problems slowing it down. And again, don't want to keep repeating myself. It's as simple as that. The TCU side is bigger favorite than they should. And it's another situation where early in the season, record means a lot. You know, if you're undefeated, and then you couple that with SMU not having covered a single game yet, even though they're 2-1 straight up, they've underperformed against the betting market. Again, this is a very efficient betting market that corrects itself. And this is what we're looking at, a correction here, getting a couple extra points. Give me SMU and sprinkle that money line as well.
Glad to hear that. I think this one's going to be a barn burner with SMU coming out on top. Here's a team that might not come out on top, but it's definitely worth a look. I had a good friend text me, I think it was on Monday, when I said, hey, I like this Maryland team. And he's like, are you kidding me? Wisconsin 4-0 since Maryland joined the Big Ten. And I'm like, yeah, but I think there's trouble there in Paradise, a.k.a. Madison, Wisconsin. This Wisconsin team has been struggling for the past 2 seasons. And those first four meetings, or only 4 meetings, the last one was in November 2022. Alabama got things right, of course, there with Wisconsin, 8.7 yards per play. Ty Simpson, 24 of 29, 382 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, I'm not saying we should compare Maryland to Alabama. I would never. But Malik Washington has shown some flashes. Sure, Terps were favored by at least 2 touchdowns in these first 3 games. So maybe his numbers are a little inflated, but this is not the same Wisconsin defense that we've seen in years past. If Maryland can even give any sort of semblance to what the Crimson Tide did to that Badgers defense last week, this game is going to be a lot closer than the spread indicates. I like the +10. I think this is a double-digit barking dog this week. Look for Wisconsin to possibly lose that Alabama game twice. All right, speaking of games losing twice here, Marco's got interesting angles every single week, whether it's a trap, whether it's a sandwich. Marco, I know those sandwich bets have been doing so well. You got another interesting angle for our audience for this week.
Absolutely, Kelly, as we go to the deli being open. And while we're here with the deli, I want to promote Marco's Deli. It's a show that we started last year, back for a second season. It comes out late on Thursday, and we're doing quite well. First 2 weeks, 7-3 total with these plays. I'll take 70%. And the beauty of that show and what we've done all along when we started bet on it, what we try to do is, I don't want to just give you guys free plays. We want to educate you and let you go inside of how we handicap some of these games, because, you know, hey, we can give you a winner. You can bet that winner. But if we can teach you how to find winners on your own, that's going to make you a better handicapper. And this game right here is the perfect example of it. Let's talk Memphis playing Arkansas. They're playing host to them. And when I look at breaking down a game, especially on the college level, this game here has everything I like to look for. Let's start with the fact that we've got Arkansas is coming off a loss where they looked as good as you could possibly look in losing a game. And what I mean by that is they went up and down the field with top 15 Ole Miss. It was a 41-35 barn burner. The 2 teams just kept going back and forth scoring. I like fading teams coming off those type of games when they look very good and it was a high-scoring game. Then you throw in they're going from an underdog to a favorite. That's another spot that you like to look to fade those favorites. Then the saying, and Kelly, you alluded to it, about losing the same game twice. Well, this game could be the poster child for that theory because Arkansas was in that big shootout with Ole Miss, and now they're playing a team, Memphis, that they normally don't play. It's a non-conference game. How do you get excited about this particular ball game? That's where lose the same game twice theory comes in. You play a big game, you play your guts out and come out short. A lot of times you come out flat the next week, and that's a bad thing when you're laying points, especially on the road. But the real reason we're here and the reason it's in the sandwich section, the deli's open. We've got the blue plate special here. Not only are they coming off that gut-wrenching game against Ole Miss, but look at who's on the schedule next week. They play Notre Dame, okay? Now, I don't care what Notre Dame's record is on a given year. When you're a school and you've got Notre Dame on your schedule, that is a game you look forward to, especially when it's Notre Dame. You don't play them very often. You really get pumped up for that. So you're coming off Ole Miss. You've got Notre Dame next week. How excited are you going to be for Memphis this week? This has everything I look at, Kelly. I've got to take Memphis plus the points. And this is a live dog. This one could have been in the barking dog section, but because of everything I just said with all of the angles, we had to get it into the deli and make it the sandwich game of the week. Memphis 34-31 in a shocker.
Another game that I have on my long list for my 3-team underdog parlay. I feel like this is the week that I have hit more underdog parlays throughout history. I think it's like week 4, 5, and 6. So we're heating up, hopefully. And I love that VR and Marco agree with some of the plays that I also like. All right, guys, it's time for best bets. We're going to get right into it. We're going to let VR go first. Another total for you guys. VR almost swept the board last week. Let's see if he can do it again this week.
Yeah, so far 8-1 in college football through 3 weeks, and it's kind of reflected how the season's going on premium. It's just been a really good college football season so far, and it's early. This game isn't sexy, but we bet it immediately. I got down at under 51.5, gave it out to subscribers at under 51. I think you'd have to pay juice to get 51 now. It's 50.5. It's probably going to get lower. Anything above 50, you're still good. Gets down to 49, I'd probably lower bet size a little bit. Bottom line is this game sets up for a nice under. You have two teams that want to run the football. That's the bottom line. And even though Lafayette had success doing it and Eastern Michigan has given up a lot of yardage against the run, I don't think Lafayette's going to be able to put up a lot of points. Again, Eastern Michigan has been porous against the rush, allowing about 300 yards per game. But now you're going up against an offense that is run first, run second, and run third. So they know what they're preparing for. That makes it a little bit easier for, again, this porous defense versus the rush. On the flip side, even though Eastern Michigan's a little more balanced, they're going to want to run the football. That's where Louisiana Lafayette has been weakest on defense. So I think this is one of those games where we're going to see a lot of ball control offense. And more importantly, these aren't two teams that convert easily. Even if they're able to move the football, as we've seen throughout the season, converting into points is another story. I think that's where the under comes in with lack of success in the red zone for both of these teams. Just keep running that football, ticking that clock. And also we have a little recency bias. Both teams coming in off an over last week. That never hurts. Go under 50.5. Eastern Michigan, Louisiana Lafayette, best bet for this week's college football show.
All right, Marco D'Angelo, before you get into your best bet, can you let everybody know what the Weekend Warrior is over at wagertalk.com?
Well, Kelly, we ran this special last week, and it was such a huge success that Johnny rolling it back this weekend. You can get all of Saturday and Sunday's football selections from your favorite handicapper for $49. And as a bonus, if that capper has a play on Monday Night Football, you'll get that included as a free bonus. And guys, if you took advantage of it with me last week, I told you I had a 5% play going. Well, we've got a 5% play going this week as well. Last week, that 5% play was North Texas. They won by a score of 59-10. We are now 32-13 with those 5% plays. We went 3-1 on Saturday. Come back on Sunday, Kelly, and I'm sure when we get to the NFL, you might have something to say about this game. we were half a point away from a 3-0 sweep. Our only loser on Sunday was Jacksonville plus 3.5. The only time they were losing to the spread, well, was the final score that happened in the final 20 seconds of the game. That was fun. But that's another day, another story. We'll complain about that in the next show. For this week, head on over, grab that $49 special, and you'll get everything for the weekend. Now, for our best bet, and this is the one segment that we haven't done well so far this year. We got to get it heated up, and I think it starts this week. We're going to take a look at Boise State. I'm going to lay the 10 points with them against Air Force. Now, coming into the season, Boise State was a top 25 team. They were a lock to win the Mountain West Conference. And lo and behold, opening week, they go to South Florida, play in the heat, and lose to South Florida and drop out of the top 25. They come back the next week. They beat up on a cupcake, 51-14, Eastern Washington. So we haven't seen them since week 2. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. I point that out for several reasons. When you're playing any of the service academies, Army, Navy, Air Force, and the option attack, it's tough to prepare for those games. But when there's a team that you play every year, like Boise and Air Force does, it's easier to prepare for those teams because you know it, you see it every year. When you throw in an extra week to prepare for them, that makes it even easier and better for the team preparing for that. And here's the facts in today's college football with the NILs. The service academies are going to be up against it, okay, because they're not going to be able to spend millions of dollars on bringing kids into play, all right? Their gap is going to get wider. I think this number is a steal because if Boise doesn't lose that first game to South Florida and then rolls over Eastern Washington the way they did, this line's going to be like 14 instead of 10. And this Air Force team, they're just a shell of what they were. Now, yeah, they put up some impressive numbers, running the football, but I want to tell you, they lost to Utah State, okay? They gave up 49 points and 473 yards to Utah State. What's this Boise State offense going to do? How are they going to stop the run? How are they going to stop the pass? This is going to be name the score type of game. This is the conference opener for Boise, so they're going to be focused because all of their things are still in play. You run the table in the Mountain West, you're going to be in the college playoffs. That's what they're shooting for. I'm taking Boise. I'm laying the 10. And the problem with an Air Force team that can't throw the football on a regular basis is when you fall behind, that vaunted rushing attack becomes even less valuable. Let's go, Boise. Lay it. I'm going to call for a blowout, 41-20.
All right. I hope one of these games is a blowout for me. Just any one of them so that I don't have to sweat an underdog outright winner this year. I just want a nice, easy rocking chair winner. Oh, wait, I got that last week with Vanderbilt. Hopefully I get it this week with North Carolina. I'm going to take the 6.5. And there's even some populating 7s here on the odds logic screen. So make sure you guys get the best of the number. I'm not going to lie. Mondays, I usually do my college football handicapping. I looked and I thought, is this a typo? Central Florida is a 6.5 point favorite over North Carolina because they're coming off a bye. Why on earth is this number in existence? So I had to do a little bit of deeper digging. UCF is beating Jacksonville State and North Carolina A&T. I get it. Bill Belichick's team looked so awful against TCU, but I still do not understand what the Golden Knights have done to deserve the kind of respect that they are getting in this betting market. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Let's keep in mind here, UCF lost 4 games at home this season. The bounce house is not what it once was. You're going to give me Bill Belichick a touchdown over Scott Frost? I'm going to take it. It's as simple as that. I think this line is way too high. I think North Carolina could have went to my barking dog segment, but I could see them losing this game in gut-wrenching fashion. How else would I take it? That being said, give me North Carolina plus the 7 here for my best bet in week 4 of college football. Thank you guys for hanging out with us every single week here on Bet On It. Again, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss another episode. I'm going to get that recap graphic up just for you guys who have requested. If you guys have another request, drop it in the comments section and we'll be sure to make some changes for you or tell you, no, we're going to keep it that way. All right, guys, if you missed the NFL edition of Bet On It, you guys can catch it right here. And of course, we're going to have that mega show up every single week for those of you that want the TNA, for those of you that want the stock watch from Teddy. And of course, if you guys are looking for Andy's prop shop, you know, he was the proptologist here on the show for the last couple of years. You can catch Andy every single day on Wager Talk Today here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Good luck. And until next week, let's bet on it.
There were 4 big upsets last week in college football. So what am I going to do for this TNA report? I'm going to break down what teams did the game after pulling an upset as an underdog of a touchdown or more, and what teams did losing as a favorite of 7 or more the following week. I am Ralph Michaels. This is your college football TNA report for week number 4. And you know what TNA stands for, trends and angles. Let's get right to it. Our first situation. Teams often upset win as an underdog of 7 or more and as an underdog of 10 or more. Well, let's take a look first at teams that pulled an upset as a dog of 7 or more. If they are now a home favorite, 45%. If they are now a home dog, 45%. If they are now an away favorite, 48%. And if they are now an away dog, 48%. Guys, it doesn't get much clearer than that. In the last almost 400 games where a team has pulled an upset as a dog of 7 or more, they have failed to cover 54% of the time the next game. Who falls in that situation this week? Army and Middle Tennessee State are home dogs. Delaware and Stanford are away dogs. Now, do the numbers get better or poorer when we look at teams that pulled an upset as a double-digit dog? Well, as a home favorite, the week after pulling an upset as a double-digit dog, only 39% ATS. As a home dog, 42%. As an away favorite, 40%. So all 3 of those got worse. As an away dog, it got slightly better, going from 48 to 49%. So it's tough to pull back-to-back upsets and cover that following week. Keep an eye on this as we'll follow it throughout the year. Well, if we're going to look at one side of the equation, let's look at the flip side. How do teams do off a loss as a TD plus favorite, like Notre Dame, Connecticut, Nevada, and Kansas State, although Kansas State does not apply this week because they have a bye week. Before I get to this chart, I want to share one thing with you guys. The Weekend Warrior is an incredible special that we started last week for the first time. Get all of my college football on Saturday, all of my NFL on Sunday for $49. If I have a Monday night NFL play, it'll get tossed in. This past Sunday, I did cash a 5% NFL teaser. I will have another 5% NFL teaser this Sunday. But sign up for the Weekend Warrior now. As soon as I load that play, you will get notified and be able to get those lines exactly as they are released. Oh yeah, by the way, since 2023, 6 straight winning NFL 5%. My NFL teasers rated 4% and 5%. How about 8-0 and 15-1? That's right. Since the 2023 season, I am 15-1, 94%. My last 16 teasers rated as a 4% or top rated 5%. This one will be a 5%. Don't miss out. All right, well, let's take a look. First, we'll look at Teams that lost as a favorite of 7 or more. As a home favorite this week, 53%. A home dog, 50%. An away favorite, 45%. And as an away dog, 51%. So 3 numbers right around the Mendoza line. But if you get an upset pulled against you and now you're an away favorite, only 38 and 46, 45.2%. Do these numbers get worse if you are off an upset loss of 10 or more? And yes, they do. Not only do they get worse across the board. As a home favorite, we go from 53 to 46%. As a home dog, we go from 50 to 41%. As an away favorite, 45 to 44.6, so basically the same. And as an away dog, I did misspeak. This one goes up a little bit from 49 to 49.3%. So the take is this, guys. You fade teams off the upset win, and if those teams are off an upset loss as a double-digit favorite, it's basically a fade across the board with the away dogs at 49% ATS. We're going to finish it off with 3 college football systems that apply for this week. College football week number 4. First game will be Thursday, September the 18th. Remember, do us a favor. Please hit that like button. Share your comments. Something you want added? Something you'd rather see changed? Please, we read them all. We appreciate them all. It helps our algorithms, and it continues to make our YouTube channel one of the strongest in the sports betting industry. Thanks again for taking a minute out of your day to watch this TNA video. System number 1. Teams that lost as a favorite and they rushed for 200 and plus yards. Now they're an away dog. That applies to Nevada this week. Lost as a favorite, rushed for over 200 plus yards. Now you're an away dog. Those teams like the Wolfpack, 64 and 27, 70% against the spread since 2015. And if you exclude games as a big dog of 13 or more, that number goes up to 77% against the spread, 44 ATS winners, 13 ATS losses. That 77% system applies to Nevada. System number 2. Teams off a game at Wyoming, and they're now a dog or a favorite to -21. They also do not have a bye week. This applies to Utah. Now, why does this matter? Wyoming is the highest elevation in college football. It is over 7,000 feet. We always talk about Mile High at 5,000. So again, think about that. You're going to Wyoming on the road. You don't have a bye. That altitude affected you the past game. Those teams the next week are 19 and 40, 32% against the spread since 2009, and that applies to Utah. Now, you might say Utah has elevation, so this doesn't mean as much, and I can agree with that thought. That's when you have to break down these systems and apply logic to them. But I do want to mention, you might think of Utah as being a mile high. They're about 4,200 or 4,300 feet, still almost 3,000 feet less than Utah. So you have to decide if you think there's value in that, but the system is easy. If a team goes to Wyoming, they don't have a bye week, and they are not a touchdown, they are not a 3-touchdown favorite, 19 and 40, 32% ATS. And I mentioned this earlier this year already, but I want to repeat it because it's had success. When we have a massive home favorite of 33 or more, and we have a low total of 56 and lower, the over-under going all the way back to 2006, 91 overs, 56 unders, that is 62% to the over. So the 2 teams that apply this week, Oregon and Oregon State, Texas and Sam Houston. Iowa UMass applied to the same situation last week. That did go over. So simple. Big home favorites of 33 or more, low totals of 56 or less, 62% to the over. Again, Oregon, Oregon State, Texas, and Sam Houston. Take advantage of the weekend warrior from me or any Wager Talk handicapper. An incredible deal. Have a great week 4 of college football. I'll be back next week with your college football TNA.